Sustainable grazing practices should ensure the delivery of socio-economic benefits while maintaining the environment. The sustainability of sheep grazing can thus be enhanced by management regimes that minimize environmental degradation, encouraging biodiversity and preserving the integrity of ecosystem processes. But in addition to the environmental aspects, the development of sustainable management practices needs to take into account economic and social issues. But of course, this is easier said than done. To discuss some of these issues, we have Unstein Snorrason from the Sheep Farming Association of Iceland and Anja Mager, a sheep farmer and student at the Agricultural University.
Over the last decades, there has been a general shift in the principles guiding grazing lands and rangeland management. From managing for animal production to increasing the emphasis on preserving biodiversity and ecosystem services. We now understand that rangelands should be maintained as functioning ecosystems and should be managed as a whole. But sustainability is not only about the environmental aspects. We need to take into account social and economical issues as well. Understanding what makes sheep grazing sustainable is more important now than ever. For sheep grazing to be sustainable, we have to balance economic gain and avoid excessive environmental degradation. Of course, sheep husbandry needs to be profitable enough to sustain farmers' livelihood. As well, sustainable sheep grazing is important when it comes to marketing sheep products. Consumers now are more concerned about the food being produced in a sustainable way. In the future, I think we will see more farmers getting involved in managing rangeland in a sustainable way. But of course, as any change, it will take time. But I am hopeful that in the not so distant future, good environmental management will be the foundation for profitable sheep production in Iceland.
I think the future is bright if we keep our minds open and try to do things better than we used to. I come from Germany and I moved to Iceland 11 years ago. I live at a farm in the west of Iceland. I also study agricultural science at the Agricultural University at Hvanneyri. My studies help me a lot with my daily work, and I think that increased access to education and better knowledge on rangeland management will facilitate changes towards more sustainable grazing practices. In my opinion, we are facing a quite fundamental question at the moment. Do we want to keep on farming sheep in the future? I say this in the light of declining prices and bad business environment for sheep farmers, as well as raising voices that denounce lack of public support, unsustainable farming practices and animal welfare issues. Of course, my answer for this question is yes, for several reasons, but this implies that we change our views and our habits fundamentally. One of the reasons I'm referring to is sustainability. It is a sincere concern because we use this land and make our living on it. It is our duty to take care of it, preserve it and improve it. We have to learn to read our land better and take appropriate action where needed. This also means that we have to face the fact that sheep grazing on some highland pastures is not sustainable. I am not an advocate for abandoning sheep farming, especially not in the most remote areas where there are few other possibilities of employment. But we will have to find different ways, may it be by putting more emphasis on planting grazing forests or rotational stocking, or by making it easier for people to find alternative ways of living. But I think things are already changing. We are becoming more aware now of the importance of managing resources in a sustainable way because of, for example, the Farmers Heal the Land program. But of course, changes take a long time. There are some deeply rooted traditions that are hard to change. For example, the every year returning problem of when to release the sheep to the highland pastures and when to bring them back. We know that shortening the grazing season would help to protect some areas, but at the same time we want to maximize the time sheep are out in the mountains. But in all, I think being aware of the problems associated to overgrazing is at least a first step towards finding a solution.
Sustainable grazing practices need to balance environmental, social, and economic aspects. However, defining what actually is a sustainable regime is very challenging, because it will depend on the specific characteristics of the environment and the socio-economic drivers behind it. Nevertheless, these efforts towards sustainability define how us, humans, live and interact with nature, and how we will continue to do so in the future. In Iceland, things are slowly changing. Sheep farmers and, maybe more importantly, consumers are more aware now of the need of producing food in a sustainable way. In this context, increased knowledge and education and better tools for rangeland management can also facilitate these changes.